Shalom, my friends, with our weekly live broadcast. I'm reporting here from the middle of a very busy central Israel town because I want you to see how alive Israel is. It's not just beautiful nature and holy sites, which is very special, and in fact you could look, earlier I reported from Mount Tabor, which is biblical and holy and beautiful nature, but I want you to look around me and just see how the land of Israel is just blooming in a way that's not only the agriculture, but also the people, the building. All these buildings behind me, and I'm not in Tel Aviv, I'm not in Jerusalem, I'm in central Israel that used to be the middle of nowhere, just empty spaces, and today there are huge bustling cities growing everywhere you look. All these buildings behind me have been built in the past 5 years, and they're full. There are children and young families and elderly all over. You can see all the businesses behind me, and you probably can't see, but not too far away is actually Nazareth, that you could see in the mountains behind me. And this used to be the middle of nowhere that people would come to back in the biblical days. It was one of the main cities. We all know Nazareth is very biblically relevant. But after that, it was kind of the middle of nowhere. There wasn't much going on. And now in modern Israel, not only has the desert bloomed, but also the people have bloomed. The Jewish people have returned to their land. The population has grown in hundreds of percentages since Israel was established, that's for sure, but even in the past few years, and so much of that is because the fellowship bringing the Jewish people home on wings of eagles. And so that brings us to our topic of today. This is a very exciting week when President Donald Trump will be inaugurated, future president, I guess you could say. We still have another day or two with Barack Obama. And a lot of people are very concerned or wondering what is going to be with relations between Israel and America. Now, I want you to tell me, if you could hear me clearly in the comment section, which way is the wind coming? Let's try to put our back towards the wind. I hope that you could hear me. Whenever I stand outside, you always have that risk of wind, but I hope that you could hear me. Write in your comment section if you could hear me, but do some hearts if you want to show that you love the people and place of Israel, and let us know that you could hear us clearly. So it's a very exciting time that we're in right now, that as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, there was the past and there is the future. The future is coming up just now with Donald Trump being president of America. It hasn't been a secret that the past 8 years have been very, very difficult for relations between Israel and America. Many people even said it reached an all-time low. But throughout that, what has kept strong, what has remained strong, is the individual love that Israel has for Americans and that America has for Israel. That it is you who are tuned into this right now that has kept America strong in supporting Israel. Now, it's very, very interesting because whenever big world events happen, the first place I turn to is the Bible to see what's happening now. Every week, the Jewish people around the world read a Torah portion. And this week's Torah portion, we start a new book, the book of names, the book of Shemot, Deuteronomy. And what happens in this week's Torah portion is two very, very huge, monumental, historic events. One is that Moses was born. The leader of Israel was born in this week's Torah portion. And we know that the daughter of Pharaoh came and found him and saved his life, and he was raised in the castle of Pharaoh. And we also learn in this week's Torah portion that after Joseph died and was no longer the leader of Egypt, it introduces the new king. The new king. And what does it say about the new king this week? That he forgot what Israel has done, the Jewish people did for Egypt. What does that mean? He chose not to remember, not to focus on all the good things that the Israelites brought to Egypt with them. How Joseph, when he was a prisoner, how did he become king? That he foretold that there was going to be a famine and they were able to stock up and avoid that famine. But it says that the new king, this week we read about in the Torah portion, forgot what the Israelites did for them. And so what happened when the new Pharaoh of Egypt forgot what the Israelites contributed to their society? They ended up enslaving the Jewish people and ultimately bringing down Egypt. That if Pharaoh would have remembered what the Jewish people, what the Israelites brought to Egypt, and he would have looked at them favorably and not enslaved them, Egypt could have remained a world power. But because he forgot and enslaved the Jews, and that angered God, well, then we know what happened. The 10 plagues came upon the people of Egypt, and Egypt was ultimately destroyed. And so I look at this week's Torah portion, and I look at what's happening in world events, that Donald Trump is going to be president, and I see that so much is on prayers. So much is the people praying for the leaders, the people praying for their country. Because how could the king, the Pharaoh of Egypt, forget what the Israelites did for the people of Egypt if the people didn't? And so it's so important to always remember to take a mental note, where are we right now? To look at the foreigner in the land and to recognize what they have contributed, what they are contributing. And especially with Israel-American relations, I know there are so many Jewish people in America who have really set the cornerstone for what America is today. And so there are so many fears. I hear so many fears. On one hand, I hear lots of people saying Donald Trump is going to save America. He's going to bring back the values, which leads me, actually, yesterday was Martin Luther King Day. And a friend of mine, her grandfather wrote a note to Martin Luther King and he said in one of his speeches that America's going to return to being Christian. And my friend's grandfather, who's Jewish, a Holocaust survivor, wrote into Martin Luther King, Dr. King, and said, "What do you mean? I take offense by that. I'm a Holocaust survivor. What does it mean it's going to return to being Christian?" And Dr. King wrote back to him. And what he said was, what it means is we're going to have Christ-like values. We're going to have Christian values. And Christian values are to love everyone, to respect everyone, to appreciate and to help the poor, to raise the economy so it's good for everyone, to be all-inclusive. And Dr. King apologized. He said, "I'm sorry if Christians haven't related to the world in what I refer to as Christ-like values, that you have a bad association with Christian society." And so it's something that's so deep. It's something that America is a Judeo-Christian is based in Judeo-Christian values. Those Christian values that Dr. King was talking about came from Judaism. Jesus was Jewish. It says in the Torah we have to love one another. And we even learn from the Jews being slaves in Egypt. So many times we're asked, why did the Jews have to be slaves in Egypt? And the answer that's given over and over again is so that you never forget what it's like to be a foreigner in a strange land. So that you never forget what it's like to be the underdog. Because prophecy foretold that the Jewish people were going to have Israel. And we all know that during the times of the temple, Israel was the center of the world. And in the time, God willing, of the third temple, Israel will once again be the center of the world. And so the Israelites, the Jews, had to go down to Egypt so that we never forget what it's like to be slaves. We never forget what it's like to be foreigners in a strange land, and that we treat other people the same way. And so what I see in this new transition of power between President Obama and Donald Trump is I see a lot of hope. And I also see a lot of responsibility on our side, the people side, that we have to pray for this new leader. People say, are you scared of Donald Trump becoming president, or are you happy that he's president? And I say, I believe it's going to be wonderful because this is God's will. But I believe it's our responsibility now to pray for Donald Trump to succeed. I see so many people going around, oh, it's going to be horrible, and there are so many fears floating around. Everywhere I look, there's fears. What's going to be? And the truth is, my friends, it's in our hands. Look at how difficult the government relations were between President Obama and Benjamin Netanyahu, between America and Israel the past 8 years, but still that did not break the relationship, because the bond between America and Israel does not rely on any policy, does not rely on politics, does not rely on presidents. It relies on us. And we are dedicated for eternity to stick together. America and Israel, Jews and Christians and moderate Muslims. I can't even tell you how many messages I get on this Facebook page that's all about learning about Israel and supporting Israel from Muslims across the world who say, I love Israel, I stand with Israel. We have to strengthen that voice as well. And so in this new reality of President Trump, I think that Israel and America relations are just going to strengthen. They're going to be blessed by God because we have invited down the blessings, and I pray we will continue to bring down the blessings. And for anybody who's worried about what will be under President Trump, I encourage you to pray about it, because just having fears and complaining and writing about it doesn't do anything. If you pray about it, that actually makes change. And we know that leaders are representative of the people. And so if the people are praying that Israel and America will be strong and united, that's exactly what's going to happen. In this week's Torah portion, we learn that a leader was born. That was Moses. Moses was born, the leader of the Jewish people. And then there was another leader who was put in place in Egypt, and that was Pharaoh. After Joseph died, it says he forgot what the Israelites did for the people of Egypt. Well, I look at this as a warning. Don't let our leaders forget how important Israel-America relations are, and don't forget how important it is to pray. Prayer is our weapon of mass destruction. Whenever we have fear, whenever we're scared of something, prayer is what makes change, what creates change. Prayer is what creates policy in heaven. And so the fellowship has a Stand for Israel page, a blog, and a Facebook page where you could get up-to-date information on what's happening in Israel and what's happening between Israel and America relations as far as on the ground amongst the people, as far as politically amongst the leaders. I encourage you, we're going to post a link in the comment section to follow Stand for Israel and be part of our community of like-minded political friends and people that are connected in Judeo-Christian values in standing for Israel and America's strong relationship, strong bond. And I want you to remember, always be encouraged. No leader could take away the bond of America and Israel. And many people say that President Obama had the best intentions. When I look over the 8 years as we go through this transition time, I look back at the past 8 years in order to learn what we should do differently for the next years. And so President Obama, many people say he had the best intentions, but what we see is that he put such a strong emphasis on settlement building, that from the beginning he said that the obstacle to peace in Israel is settlement building. But the truth is, even if you look at that as a problem, that's not the obstacle to peace. Because Israel has reached our hands out in peace to the Palestinians from the time Israel was established. From the time the Palestinians rejected the partition plan from the UN in 1947, from that time we've been trying to give the Palestinians a piece of land if they will just let us live in peace. And they've rejected it. Time after time after time. So for the President of the United States to come and say settlement building is the biggest obstacle, not terrorists who are trying to kill the people of Israel, not the Palestinian leadership that refuses to recognize a Jewish state, not the fact that there is so much corruption within the Palestinian leadership that they don't even really have rule over their people, and there are so many individuals who want peace but their voice can't be heard. Not the fact that the education system teaches the children to hate Israel. Not the fact that that martyrs, what they consider terrorists, that we would say, terrorists who kill Israelis are put on payroll for the rest of their life, or their families if they were killed, from the Palestinian Authority in order to live out good lives because they killed or murdered Israelis. These, President Obama said, are not the biggest obstacles to peace, and I disagree. I disagree. And I think Donald Trump disagrees as well. In the speech that John Kerry recently gave about what happened in the past 8 years of why Israel and the Palestinians couldn't reach peace, there was an obsession with talking about the settlements. Now let me explain to you what settlement building is so that you have an idea. There are many different kinds of settlements, but the settlements that we're talking about are huge cities like Ma'ale Adumim, that's connected to Jerusalem, like Efrat, like the Gush Etzion block, where there are thousands and thousands and thousands of Jews who live there and homes that are built. And when you talk about building in the settlements, you're not talking about going outside of the borders that have already been set within those settlements where there are tens of thousands of people living. You're talking about doing an addition on an individual's kitchen. If an addition on somebody's kitchen is approved, suddenly the international world goes crazy that Israel approved settlement building. But is that an obstacle to peace? No matter how you look at the settlements, is that an obstacle to peace? And we have to always remember, we must always remember that before there were settlements, Israel was being attacked. The world says go back to pre-1967 borders and then there'll be peace with the Palestinians. But before 1967, we didn't have this land, and what happened? The Arab world tried to attack and destroy Israel. And we were able to conquer these strategic locations so that we don't have to be as vulnerable as we were before 1967. But we didn't go out and try to conquer this land. We were attacked, and they wanted to wipe us into the sea. It was no secret. And then, because they attacked us, because they wanted to wipe us out, in order to protect the people of Israel, Israel conquered some land during this war, which is what happens during wars, and as strategic locations has kept it. So you could agree or disagree with that position, but to say that that is the obstacle to peace, the Western Wall is considered part of East Jerusalem. As far as the new UN vote resolution that passed, technically, Jews shouldn't be allowed to pray at the Western Wall because it's in East Jerusalem. That's under Palestinian jurisdiction. How many of you have been to the Western Wall? How many of you have prayed at the Western Wall? Well, let me give you an idea of something. Holy sites that are under Israel are open for everyone to go to. Something like Joseph's tomb, and that's when I talk about everyone is open to go to, I'm talking about Arabs, Jews, Christians, atheists, anyone that could come and pray at these holy sites. Israel protects it for all the people. Now let me give you the example of Jacob's tomb in Shechem. If you go to Jacob's tomb, which is illegal for Jewish people, you'll be killed, you'll be lynched. It's illegal to go there. Israel is a beacon of hope, not only for the Jewish people, but for all people of faith. When Christians come to Israel, I just came from Mount Tabor. I saw the mountain where Christians believe Jesus went up to heaven. Well, that's open to everyone. Arabs, Christians, Jews, there's no checkpoints getting in there. It's a holy site that everyone could go to. And so when we talk about peace in Israel, are settlements an obstacle? Or is it an obstacle that terrorists are trying to get us to not be able to visit holy sites, Jews and Christians? Or that they're teaching their children to martyr themselves in order to kill Jews? Now again, this is not everyone. Israel has millions of Arabs that live in Israel, have Israeli citizenship, enjoy the same benefits that me and my children do, and they're wonderful people. We're not talking about the Palestinian people, we're talking about the Palestinian leadership. And that is where the problem lies. The Palestinian people are being held hostage by their leadership. And so when we talk about the future of Israel-America relations, I believe that under Donald Trump, we will see an understanding of the situation that was not seen for the past 8 years. I think we'll see different policy coming out that wasn't seen for the past 8 years. And I pray the day will come when we will finally see peace. There's a verse in Psalms that says, don't trust in leaders, only trust in God. Don't put your faith in the leaders of the world, put your faith only in God. And this is amazing to me. And I think this is what we have to remember as Inauguration Day comes close, both as people who support Donald Trump or people who are scared of Donald Trump. Who said this? Not to put our faith in leaders, but rather into God. It was King David. It was King David, the King of Jerusalem, the King of the center of the world. He himself said, don't put your faith into man. Don't put your faith into leaders, no matter what title they have, no matter what role they're in. They are only messengers and conduits to God. Put your faith directly into God. And so we have to, all of us in Israel, where people are moving and living and enjoying life, we have to stand with the American people now during this transition, to support the American people, to encourage the American people. When they turn to us to be taught about what's happening in the Middle East, we are here to teach you, and we stand with you. No matter what will happen, we, Israel, stands with America, and I know that America stands with Israel. So now is the time for prayers, my friends. Now is the time to raise Donald Trump up in prayers, no matter how you feel about him. Let's pray that he will succeed. Let's pray that he will just be a conduit for God's will to come into this world. Let's pray that now we will see peace in Israel, peace in America, brotherhood amongst us. And let us always remember, no leadership could tear apart the deep bond that the people of Israel have with the people of America. That Jews and Christians and moderate Muslims and people of all faiths around the world who cherish freedom, who cherish life, we stand with each other. So America, during this transition period, Israel stands with you. We are here for you. We love you. And our faith is in God, and we are turning our eyes to Donald Trump to, God willing, bring in that will of God and usher in an era of peace and beauty, quiet, brotherhood, and only good things. Remember to join our Stand for Israel blog and Facebook page to get constant updates on what's going on in Israel and America that are relevant to you. So thank you for joining. God bless you. God bless America. Congratulations, President Trump.